let's go into our next topic,
Okay.
which is, should you buy a pre-existing short-term rental or start from scratch? Okay, so clearly the first point I have here is the goals, depending on what you want for this. But I guess the reason I came up with this, my main thought process is, why would somebody ever sell a successful property, right? So I would guess that you would have to buy a, I guess, quote unquote, crappier or a worse property, and then just kind of give it a facelift and makeover. But with that, I would think there's so many challenges and other things that you would have to do to it, like inspections and make sure, or even if like there's bad carbon, you got to tear all this stuff up now, and it seems more complex, right? Or is this kind of more? No, people do this all the time, and that's a normal way to go.
So one, people do sell successful properties all the time, right? It happens on a regular basis that are actually performing well. I'm not talking about great properties that have potential that they didn't realize, and you're going to come in and help that property revitalize it and realize that potential, and maybe not doing a lot to it because they just didn't recognize how to market it, how to do a consumer behavior, all those things. There are times though when you have and you can walk into a property that's performing really well, and the owner is like, well, why would I sell that? We just sold, Dave and I just closed on Stargazer in St. George. We sold that. Great property, doing well, performing. And ultimately, we're looking at it saying, man, we got a lot of equity sitting in there, and we're not getting a great return on that equity because we had so much equity sitting there that we're going to trade up to bigger and better properties. And so there's a lot of times when somebody is like, hey, listen, I can recapitalize the money that I have in this property and put it into a bigger and better property and grow it even more, right? And so, and get a better return on my equity. We've talked about this. Any real estate investor should always be looking at the return they're getting on their equity. And there's many times where really good properties sell because that owner is now ready for a bigger and better property, but somebody else might be trading up into the one they're selling, and that is the bigger and better property for that next person. And it could be really good. Now, we are coming toward the end of the year. We're in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And we're getting out of crunch time.
Buzzer beater
Properties, like people trying to slide in on the bonus depreciation and the tax advantage and the short-term rental loophole.
Right.
In certain situations, you're probably at this stage in the game, you better be looking at furnished properties that are ready to go so that you can buy it and get it in service right away. And so an existing short-term rental that's furnished, even if you're going to be doing something to it, get it in service, qualify, and then pull it back off, do the renovations or whatever you need to do. Now, as an investor, the key of an investment is usually you are looking for opportunities, something that is underperforming, something that has some sort of distress, has some sort of a situation that is not ideal, so that you can come in and save that property, right? That you can add some value. You can change it up. You can come in and say, hey, listen, I need to figure out different marketing. They don't have a great target audience. They don't understand consumer behavior here. They don't have any sort of an experience. They've got this beautiful home. It looks like a model on the beach, great proximity, but they're doing nothing else right. Those are things that as an investor that we come in and we need to recognize. So you could buy really good properties that are underperforming, not performing well, that still an investor is saying, hey, this is not the game I wanted to play. Right. I'm struggling. I'm not making my payments. I'm not paying my bills. This property's not covering itself. I don't like short-term rentals, all those different things. And you come in and say, most of the time, as an investor, those are the properties we buy, the ones that aren't doing really well. So you're like, okay, well, on one hand, I could buy a really good property, and the question is, well, why would somebody sell a good property? Well, there's reasons. There's also reasons why people wouldn't, and there are more obvious reasons why people would not sell a non-performing property. But as an investor, I got to recognize, does that property have potential to perform? Right. And so, and many times these properties are furnished and they're set up and they look like model homes and they got everything you need. Right. They've done 95% of the heavy lifting. You need to add that extra 5% on the back end. And usually it's creating an experience, an immersive experience for a target audience. Right. But all the hard work's done as far as the case goods, your tables, your chairs, your beds, everything's in place, and it looks like a model home. Now we need to come in and actually not make it look like a model home. We need to make it look like a vacation home. Right. And create this immersive experience. Yeah. And so that can be a lot cheaper to do when you buy homes like that than buy completely unfurnished homes, the ones that now need any sort of work, or you're starting from scratch. And so a lot of times that answer again comes down to your budgets and saying, hey, listen, how much money do I have to get this property to on the back end to where I need it to be marketed? And usually that's a budget based on a price per square foot. You're going to have a certain price per square foot to take a property from zero to the finish line, and you're going to have another price per square foot to take a property that's pretty well furnished to the finish line. And those numbers are going to be much different. And so in that case, you might look in the mirror and say, man, based on the money that I have to acquire this property to get it to the finish line, I really need to be looking at furnished properties. Ideally, you want to be able to look at both, and you want to be able to look for the best opportunity based on your property goals. But those are some of the reasons why you would lean toward one or the other.
Okay, let's go a little bit deeper here. Having the confidence of saying this property is underperforming, I see that little mismanagement or whatever's wrong with it, and I can fix that and I can make it perform better. That seems like that requires a lot of confidence, or at least knowing the game pretty well. Would you recommend to a beginner investor to go with that same route, or should someone that has some experience that's maybe done this before, they would more likely go towards the pre-existing?
It's the same skill set.
Okay.
It's recognizing what it's going to take to perform. So a beginner that thinks, I'm just going to buy this really nice property that looks like a model home, is going to be in just as much trouble as that person that's selling that model home that is not performing. Right? There's a lot of, and I call them model homes out there that look beautiful. And I call them model homes because they're professionally designed, professionally, like they're great properties, great proximity, beautiful type homes. But they become commodities in this game very, very fast, and they don't perform. And so if you're a beginner and you don't recognize what it's going to take on the back end, and that's recognizing completely set up furnished properties as well as properties that you're starting from scratch on, to say, what's it going to take? It's just a matter of having the money. And so absolutely, as a beginner, you better understand that game you're going to be playing and what it's going to take to perform. And if you don't, find somebody that does. Obviously, a lot of people are listening to this. We've got tons of resources to help you with that. But at the end of the day, it's the same skill set, right?
Okay.
Recognizing a beautiful model home and why it's not performing sometimes is harder for a beginner to recognize than a property that's sitting there that doesn't look like anything yet.
Okay. We talked about, the buzzer beater time. Would since it's Q4, now we would kind of recommend maybe the pre-existing short-term rental. But if it's Q1, it's the beginning of the year, maybe you have a little bit more time. So maybe you go more towards starting from scratch. Is that kind of where that rule not maybe a rule necessarily, but that mindset kind of comes in?
Well, like I said before, ideally you want to be looking at both.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm looking for the best opportunity long-term. And that is going to be a combination of, obviously, once I've chosen my market, right? What's the most investable market for my property goals? But after we choose that, I'm looking for that best property, right? And that it's a combination of proximity, the bedroom bathroom count, like what can I do with this property to set it up, like all these different things. And ultimately, if I have the budget to go start from scratch, great. If I, and I'm talking about furnishings, artwork, amenities, accessories, all those types of things. We haven't talked about, and I'm not really referring to a lot of big rehab value add properties, right? That's a whole different ballgame. And a different skill set. And so when you start to add that in there, it's nice because you can force some appreciation by buying a fixer-upper and putting money in. But what if you don't have the time, you're not doing it, you've never managed one, you're far away. It's a whole nother level of complexity added to this deal that can, and a lot of things that can go wrong. And so I don't necessarily recommend a lot of people look for big value add type properties in this situation. So when I say starting from scratch, I'm talking maybe very light reno work, paint, right? Carpet, flooring, stuff like that, just very cosmetic. But I'm talking about furnishing, setup, like creating that immersive experience. And being able to do that is, I'd much rather be able to find the right property long-term, great proximity. And if my budget allows me to take a property from scratch to the finish line, I'd like to have that option when I'm looking for properties. Because what if I find the perfect property, but it's not finished or furnished, and I'm like, I only wanted furnished properties. Well, I have to walk away from that property if I can't get it to the finish line, right? And so ideally, you want to be looking at both. Ideally, I'd be looking at both right now too.
Okay.
But it's just going to
Okay.
be very, very difficult to
Yeah.
be able to materially participate, bonus depreciate this year if you haven't started that process.
Okay. All right. Now, I think this is my last question here. People are hearing this and they go, okay, I want to find one. How do I find that property that's maybe underperforming or has that little bit that I think I could save? What's the best way to go about that? Do you need to get a AirDNA subscription and start looking at markets? Do you just hop on Airbnb and try and find a beautiful model property? What's the best route to try and find one of those?
You have to have a strategy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is you're talking about buying a long-term investment. So
Yeah.
you build that, you figure out what your buy box is, you figure out what are your property goals. We're gonna write those down. What are my budgets? What am I really trying to do with this portfolio? Is it a lifestyle asset? Am I just trying to supplement a vacation home? You're gonna make much different decisions doing that than if, hey, this is an investment. I'm trying to build a portfolio, and we're doing that. So ultimately, you got to have you need to sit down and figure out what my strategy is. Right. These are big buying decisions. They're big decisions long term. You're putting a lot of money into these properties. They're big commitments, and so you don't just go haphazardly go on one of your favorite software tools and try to find properties. But I mean, ultimately, you're going to be looking at properties, and then you're running numbers on them, and you're underwriting them, and you're going to team up with local experts who really know the area that you're investing in. If you're not super familiar with it, maybe you are super familiar with it. The right side of the tracks to be on, the wrong side of the tracks to be on, all those different things.
Right.
There's so much that goes in to that acquisition side of it to make sure that you're buying the right property for you, right? And that fits your situation, your budgets, the money that you have available. All of those things have to go into consideration. So it's not like you're just going to go in and I mean, yes, you're going to have an AirDNA subscription. You're going to have a lot. I mean, you're going to be getting on Zillow all the time, or Redfin, or whatever your favorite search tool is for homes.
Right.
You're going to be plugging numbers in. All of those things are necessary, but it's a combination of a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's one of the most important decisions, buying the right dang property in the right market.
Right.
That works for you.
Yeah.